Hello and welcome back to the Ospreys Eyrie podcast. The podcast who's not on a sabbatical, um, but I assume after last week, I think some people think we would, especially after some of the feedback to our interview. I'm your host, James, joined as always by the boys, Yestin, Robbie. How are we, gents?
I'm good, yeah. Good. Just looking forward to playing good player for the rest of the evening, really. But yeah, all good.
No, I'm great. Any day where I get to remember Andy Lloyd exists is a good day in my books.
Good player. Yeah, so we are going to be playing good player today, as there is no Ospreys game this weekend. Obviously, it starts Six Nations, which we'll cover from an Ospreys perspective. Obviously, having the lowest number of representatives in the squad means that we probably can't talk as much as the Scarlets or the Dragons or the Blues. So, news wise, there is no news. It has been a quiet week. We've not announced any re-signings or new signings, blah, blah, blah. The only bit of news, well, actually, I'll tell you, like, James Fender's having a new shoulder.
Mm. He's gonna have a third shoulder, which is
Yeah,
really exciting, I think. Like he's been very good with two of them. Imagine if he did a
worrying,
third.
worrying for second rows everywhere. They have to live up to this standard now. No, so he's
Where do you think they're
so
gonna put it?
obviously
Like in his back?
I think he's gonna have like a third arm that just grows at the
Yeah.
back.
Great for taking line outs. You can kind of dummy
Yeah.
call it with one, and then the third just pops up out the back like bloody Doctor Octopus takes the line out.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't. It doesn't like talk to him though, and it has like evil thoughts. But like, well, a bit like Spider-Man 2.
Convince him to sign for the Scarlets.
Well, I'll come on to that. Yeah. So James Fender's having an operation on his shoulder. Obviously, he dislocated his shoulder against Perpignan. Obviously, now they felt that surgery is the correct way to rectify it, which probably extends his window of recovery time. But he's young; he'll come back better for it. On the rumor side of it, Scarlet's Fever, not the pod, so not that one. The forum, which I frequent daily because it's fun watching grown men have meltdowns. Someone reported on that, and they have no validity of how truthful it is. But Scarlets were looking at James Fender, but James Fender turned them down and has signed a new deal with the Ospreys. Again, this is all rumor mill, all speculation. Please sign a new deal with us, James. We love you. If we can get his mum on a contract extension as well, that would probably be better
And
news. But
the two brothers as well, who are apparently coming through. He's got two brothers
yeah,
who
we've
are
got one in
years
the one
younger.
in the 16s now, I think,
Mhm.
and the other ones I think is just a bit younger in school. But
Okay.
yeah, that's the Geordie Barretts of South Gower, the Barrett family of South Gower are coming through. Lance Bradley tweeted this week a poll saying, Ospreys fans, what would you like in your new stadium in terms of seating? The general consensus was you want one side terrace, one side seating. But it got people talking about the stadium. There were some wild suggestions in there. Yes, in the 71, it was like, we need to develop our brand new stadium and then put loads of money into three other stadiums that all have 10,000 capacity. And I'm like, who do you think is backing us?
Who goes back in Cardiff?
But I love Lance's reply. We want one stadium. we just want one stadium. So yeah, it's been a bit of an R&R week. Boys obviously aren't in training. We haven't. I think we haven't announced like a mid-season friendly against the Southern Hemisphere or an English opposition. Obviously, Scarlets take on Exeter the day of the England game. We've got Leinster versus Saracens, Munster versus Quins, and they're playing Crusaders. So actually, I think from where our squad is right now, having that bit of extra time off probably benefits us a bit more. We're 8 out of 13, so thank God for that. Any other news from you boys? I don't think
Well,
there's
yeah, I
any more.
guess the one other thing that's happened
hours after we recorded and
Oh
an hour
yes, of
after
course.
the podcast went out, is the last 16 game against Sale has been moved to Bridgend rather than the Liberty,
Yes.
the stadium formerly known as Liberty, as was likely expected, which I think is a really exciting move. So tickets are on sale
Yes.
now for season ticket holders. Go on sale the morning this will be going out, for the rest of us plebs, which I realized how optimistic I was that I was worried that was going to sell out before I could get one, which I don't think has ever been particularly a problem there. But hopefully, with a few days, few months behind it, we will start to see that, because that being a 8,000 capacity ground would be really interesting and exciting if they can sell it out. There's a great atmosphere. You know, obviously you were there on New Year's Day.
I was there in the conservatory.
Yeah. Yeah, see if they can recreate the Barclay Lounge, get the whole thing out. I'm really excited about this. I really like that as a move, as a decision.
So we've all spoke off air, and we're going to try and get down, all three of us, and hopefully do some content. But at least all three of us stand there and watch the game. I'm trying to figure out if I can get to the game, because baby. I have asked my partner if she can delay it. Apparently, that's not a thing. No, so definitely I'm going to try and get down there. I really, we can't control the kickoff time. People need to understand that 8 p.m. is out of our control, and there's been some. I was in a minority of pushing back on the price for season ticket members. So you've got to remember, this is supply and demand. We're in knockout rugby now. And the prices that we're charging are 3 times lower than you probably get in your English counterparts, maybe your Irish counterparts. So you know, if you want pro rugby in Southwest Wales, if you want in the Swansea region, Nice, whatever, you need to stop expecting things for free, or to be so cheap. It's arguably they might be more expensive at the Swansea.com stadium because it's not a place we're going to sell out. And the Ospreys are going to make substantial amounts more money at the brewery field than they would at the .com. So just go down and support the boys. This is our best chance to ever get through. I don't think we'll ever get a better chance than this.
No,
Yestin, your dissertation is going to be on the Stade Francais game from 2017. So.
Oh, no.
Is there a better chance that we have to get through?
Well, you've just mentioned that now, and I've lost all thought of processing. And so I hope that's not my dissertation next year, because if it is, I'm going to be very, very upset with a few people. But it is a really good opportunity, and okay, I saw the odd complaint about moving the game from Swansea to Bridgend, but you really sense that a full house in Bridgend with 8,000 people who are, they're quite close to the pitch compared to what it is in the Swansea.com, it's going to generate a good atmosphere. And I think I mentioned either in a message a couple of weeks ago, imagine seeing George Ford miss a drop goal in the last play and hit a lorry. Like, what more do you want as a European spectacle? Like, scrap the Heineken Cup and all that. Just George Ford missing a drop goal and hitting a lorry. That's all you need for anything. And
yes, please.
But I do think it is a really good chance for the Ospreys to end this duck, because they got rather close last year. I don't think many people expected it to be so close last year against Saracens.
I think people forget how dominant we were in that Saracens game.
Yeah, the first 20 minutes was off the scale, excellent rugby all round, except for the discipline. But
even then, some of them penalties were questionable by Almeg Nika. Nika Amish-Kelly made some questionable decisions. Actually, I rue that game for 2 things. Sorry, Robbie, I will.
No,
because that's the game that put Ethan Roots on the map.
Yeah.
And now he's potentially starting against Italy for England. And we caused this.
Yeah,
with Sam Underhill.
Yeah, with Sam Underhill. I mean, we need to talk about this later.
Did we secretly invent Ben Earl as well? Was he brought up in a lab in Mumbles or something?
He's actually the 4th Fender. yeah, we're moving to the Bridgend. It should be a great game. We have beaten Sale at the Brewery Field before, which if I'd have known that before, I would have chosen it for good player. We beat them 37-36.
Oh,
Yeah, it's everything I want. George Ford was at said Brewery Field, and there was an Atonga hat trick.
oh God, I vaguely remember that.
So
yeah, that's ringing a bell.
I think we need to talk about this. So that is going to be my next good play. If I hadn't already chosen today,
I think we need to save that good player for the week of the sale.
I think we should,
just in case. And with the one,
the best one.
And with the one where James Hook nails the match-winning conversion.
Yes, that's the other one where it's like 39 passes or something like that.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the one at the Liberty from like 2 years ago. I refuse to talk
we can
about
skip
the
that.
Matt Prothero.
Yeah,
apart from Matt Prothero going full Matt Prothero, we're not talking about that. And even Shona should have seen red but saw yellow because the refs are bottle jobs. Anyway, I'm not bitter. Let's talk very quickly about Six Nations. So obviously Wales v Scotland on Saturday. Big, Wales in transition, blah blah blah, keywords. Scotland, can they break the duck? They'll never have a better opportunity. From an Ospreys perspective, the 4 that have been selected, I think we agree that at least 3 of them should start.
Yeah, I'd expect at least 3 of them to start, and I think if it's 4, it'd be well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. It all depends what type of game plan Gatland goes to shut down that Tuipulotu Hugh Jones axis. So does he go an Owen Watkin defensive captain?
Well, look, I make this point every week. Why change? I think Owen Watkin has been phenomenal this season. I think he's been playing arguably the best rugby of his career, certainly the best in a long time. And he would really deserve a spot. I haven't seen that. I've seen a few games Saracens played this season, so I haven't seen as much of Nick Tompkins as I have of Watkin. But I think that's very much a question. That's very much a debate. Also, George North missed a week of training. Will that factor into things? Gatland loves players being in training. Tompkins had to go back to play for Saracens this weekend, just gone as well. So perhaps that will count in Watkins' favour, the fact that he's been there the entire way throughout. He's been the only centre who has been an active part of training the entire way through since he entered camp.
Could you have an Owen Watkin, Joe Roberts maybe?
I mean, look, it's the thing we're all dreaming of. It's the question we're all asking. It's the new probables v possibles midfield.
Oh yeah, right. I sent you the screen. Going off on a tangent. I sent the screenshots of right. So I didn't remember the score, and it turns out it was like 55-7 or something. I thought it was a lot closer game than it was. The only person I remember from the possibles was the fact that Jonathan Spratt was on the bench. And that told me all I needed to know. I didn't realize how imbalanced the teams were.
Yeah.
Until I looked at the team, and it was essentially like the Grand Slam winning Wales team versus Matthew Morgan at 10.
It was a hell of a thing, that game. It was such a novelty because it was really exciting as a prospect going in. You're really up for it. And then the first scrum, Foxy walks straight under the posts.
Yeah.
From like the first phase of play, like a minute in, and we're like, oh, okay. Oh, we should have seen this coming. It's going to go that way. They say when you look back on the teams afterwards, you go, oh no, that was very misguided. But then Nipper comes off the bench, and it reawakens the hype around him, which I think had died down quite a lot. There'd been a lot when he came through, and more of that later, of how exciting he definitely was. And then it all kind of faded a bit, and everyone went, oh, actually, it's not going to happen. And he came off the bench, was electric. And then when they named the squad afterwards, like to the post, match dinner thing, Joe Davis stands up and gives the speech, and he says, and I want to make a special mention. This is a game for all shapes and sizes. Matthew Morgan is in this squad. And then went through and named the squad after there'd been a round of applause specifically for Matthew Morgan.
I was at the game.
Really?
I've got the programme somewhere, and I need to find it. I meant to find it this week. I was at the game. I was in the corner of the East Stand. And again, I have no memory of the score. I just remember like, you know what is happening, and just a lot of old men around me going, "This is like the old days. This is brilliant," because obviously everything was better in the amateur. What were we talking about? We're talking about Owen Watkins, defensive captain with Joe Roberts, weren't we? There's a lot of talk. Well, I say there's a lot of talk. There's people online saying Adam Beard won't be in the squad, which is if you think Adam Beard is, I would be very, very surprised if Adam Beard has dropped.
Yeah,
he is Gatland's favourite. Just because we know that Gatland, just because you're captain doesn't necessarily mean you'll play. A la Dewi Lake. You know, Jenkins isn't necessarily a nailed-on test starter just because he's captain.
And likewise, Roy Rowlands has just come back from France, had to fly back in between, fly back again on Monday. Has had a couple of injury troubles over the start of the season, so isn't nailed on as well. I think the security Adam Beard gives you and the kind of safety blanket and how well he's been playing for the Ospreys lately, I think makes him a real contender. I will be starting him at least, you know. Dav Jenkins is very much, when you look at it, he is the bold choice, and we know Gatland likes a bold choice as captain. He's the one young leader now that Jack Morgan and Dewi Lake are ruled out. So I completely get him being captain. I would completely understand as well if he's on the bench.
Yeah. Yeston, you're a big Adam Beard apologist, aren't you? He's better than James Ryan. Where's James Ryan this weekend?
Yeston? James Ryan is on the bench, isn't he? Last time I checked.
Justice!
How's that Lions hopeful James Ryan getting along? Well, he's on the bench for France against Ireland.
Yes, I love it.
Wooden spoon match.
Shout out to @GortoShay, RIP on Twitter. Yeston's favourite muse of winding up about.
You just constantly get a reply as well, and it was just really good fun, and especially when the actual Lions squad, and well, not the squad announcement, but when Navidi and Beer got called up, that was probably a real highlight of that particular couple of weeks, just to see the reaction on Twitter, because it went chaotically bad, and there was like,
the best thing was
Adam Beard's a good player, and then you just saw everyone else saying, "But where's James Ryan?" And it was just hilarious.
Then Adam Beard had that absolute stormer in one of the provincial games, and scored one of the 2 tries he scored in his career.
Yeah,
and one man.
It wasn't even like it wasn't even like a pushover try. He hits like this beautiful inside line that like gallops in like Melvin the giraffe of Madagascar. That's all. I remember it, and I go back and watch it at least like once a month. I'm like, this happened. This wasn't a fever dream. And then everyone was like, "Shit, the Lions have no like good second row to go on the bench. Is Adam Beard actually going to be a test? Oh my God, Adam Beard's a test Lion.
Yeah.
What has happened?"
The best bit about that try isn't the angle, it's how far he has to reach to put the ball down afterwards. How cumbersome it looks, as he's like, "Oh God, never been down this far before."
But it was the same with Justin Tipuric in 2013. Like, I'm a 2013 Lions buff, right? That's my favorite. That's over the Lions tours I've watched that like the whole thing so many times. And Justin Tipuric went on that tour. Obviously, Kate forced his way on that tour after the best Six Nations he's ever had, arguably. And then I was like, well, yeah, he's there. He'll play against the combined counties, and you know he'll play against the Western Force. And then he's like, shit, no, he's actually good enough. He's on the bench. Like he's, you know, and obviously Sam Warburton. And there were some good sevens on that tour. You know, Sean O'Brien, peak of his powers, I'd say there.
Yeah,
better than the weirdly racist stuff he said to Anthony Watson in 2017.
That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other video. You've covered that.
Yeah. That's
you're
in.
The one who put me onto that, and I can't.
An early Squid Rugby video, I think. I spent ages trying to track that footage down because it stood out to me so hard.
It's really funny that Justin Tipuric obviously said in them videos, it's the Lions people as well, I want to be in these films as little as possible. Because when you were like, as me, like a young Justin Tipuric fan, I was like, oh my God, my hero's going to be in these Lions films. And there's one clip in the 2013 documentary where he's wrestling Brian O'Driscoll, and that's it. There's like a shot of him on the bus, and he looks at the camera and he's like, get that thing out of my face before I punch you.
I remember there's a bit of Talupe Faletau playing Rugby Challenge 2 against someone. Was that not Tips? Because Simon Zebo's commentated. Simon Zebo stood behind him commentating.
Was that 2017 or 2013?
It'd be 13 because Zebo was there.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Tips.
Right. But like,
But
I remember all the stories of Faletau and Tips would sit in their room playing FIFA together.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, Justin Tipuric's like the biggest like introvert there is. Like, he sits in a hotel room just playing Football Manager. Him and Faletau, like, notoriously just don't like socializing.
And so just hang out together, not talking to anyone. Which sounds ideal. I love that.
I also think they don't talk to each other either.
No.
Communicate through nods.
But they get that. They get that about each other.
Yeah. That's why they were so mercurial together.
Yeah. That try against South Africa, purely from years and years of not talking, playing FIFA.
Of vibes. Right, we've got a massive tangent again. This is why people don't listen to us. Right, we haven't where were we? Right, we were on Six Nations. Gareth Thomas will definitely start. I'd be very, very surprised if he picked Domachowski to start. I've seen no evidence to say Domachowski is the better option to start against Scotland. That's not me saying Domachowski's a bad player. There's no. I didn't even know who the other loosehead is.
Matthias.
Matthias. So I think
there's
two
looseheads in the squad.
Yeah, fairly safely. We're looking at Domachowski and Gareth Thomas playing probably 60-20 one way around or the other. I'd expect Thomas to start after the World Cup and the way that the way around they did it in the World Cup. But I wouldn't be too surprised if the other way around, but I'm not expecting it.
Look, he has the prospect of going up against Javen Sebastian. We could, this could be a colossal matchup. We've got what else have we got? Beard North. Again, your point about North, Robbie is pertinent. Gatland does like people who train. So look, we can't. At the end of the day, Ospreys only have 4 players in. We've got, he could call up Morgan Morse, right? I hope he doesn't, but I can't see us getting in.
The other option is he goes for Tompkins and Watkin in the centre, because obviously with Lucy Samet going to some other sport that I've never heard of, baseball, I think, you've then got, do you put Adams at fullback, have Dyer and North on the wings in order to keep a more secure, experienced team, rather than looking to bring in Tom Rogers at fullback or Kai Evans at fullback? So you've got someone with more than 3 caps.
The noises I'm hearing is that Adams is starting fullback on Saturday.
Okay.
Which says to me that it's going to be Dyer, maybe North, with a Tompkins, Joe Roberts. I think that's what's going to happen. Look, I think having his jaw broken is tough. Because it does limit your options in terms of fullback. You could go Kai Evans, who is I really like Kai Evans. I don't think he's what Gatland wants. I think he's got probably the most endearing thing in the Gatland team is he can kick very well. Does he fit into an Alex King attack? Probably not. That's where win it comes in.
He sort of fills the halfpenny mould in that he is incredibly reliable under the high ball at covering the ground and kicks incredibly well. And he's less of a presence in attack. But Wales have kind of worked with that for 10 years when, it's been halfpenny rather than Williams at fullback.
He doesn't have the pace. He should. No. He should be a lot quicker than he is. And that's not to say that he should be his dad quick. But
it's an incredible... How slow was his mum if he's come out the pace he is?
Yeah. That's very true. I've watched him before, and he's not the quickest. Yestin, how many of the 4 do you expect to start?
I think. Well, I don't know, because I said yesterday that it wouldn't surprise me if he went Jenkins and Rowlands, but now, obviously, after this discussion, I do think he will come back in. I thought and I saw a couple of tweets about this. What would Adam Beard provide off the bench? Obviously, he'd provide rolling maul turnovers everywhere. But I probably would have Jenkins on the bench, similarly to the World Cup where he just came on 20 minutes ago and just put in a shift there. So I think Gareth Thomas should start, and I think he will. Beard, I think now he'll start, and then you've got, well, it's kind of a bit of a lottery in the centre because there's a couple of options here, a couple of options there. Owen Watkins going to cover both 12 and 13 after everyone keeps switching him around, and yeah, so I think we'll see 3. I think Watkins will be on the bench.
Yeah, I think watching that that comment earlier about Beard, what does he offer off the bench? Well, actually, they've just answered their own question. Don't put him on the bench then, if you feel he doesn't offer the impact. But it's a serious thing that some players don't offer that bench impact. Like Adam Beard he's a grafter over a period of time. He's not someone to come on to put the big hit in or to make the big carry. He's not that, and that's fine. So I think a Teddy Williams I think a Teddy Williams is a perfect bench player for Wales because he can come on, make their outrageous run or whatever. Anyway, we've spent too long on Wales now.
Who cares about them?
Yeah. Let's play good player. Yeah.
Yes.
This is why I'm here.
Now we're talking.
I have been looking forward to this all week. So, each of us have chosen a game from the archives. We know, obviously, we're choosing. We've told each other. Who wants to go first?
Oh.
Yes, then you
Do we go
first. I know what you've chosen.
Please.
Yeah, I know what you've chosen.
Right. Let's jog our minds back to 2017.
Oh, I'm trying.
The Steve Tandy era where James Hook was constantly playing at inside centre and scored a dummy against Munster. That happened. And then the Ospreys are in the European group with Saracens and Clermont, who were European finalists the previous year, I believe. I think. And Northampton. And the story of the first 2 games was the Ospreys played very well and lost, despite league form suggesting otherwise. And they travelled to Franklin's Gardens with a few injuries, one of them being Justin Tipuric, and the other one being Dan Biggar. So that was like half the Ospreys team out at that stage, with just those 2 gone. And they went to Northampton, and for about 60 minutes, emulated the 2015 All Blacks. Before utter chaos ensued, and Northampton somehow made a game of it, as the Ospreys went down to 13 men in the final 10 minutes, but they somehow won. So we'll start with the Northampton team, obviously the hosts that evening. Francois Van Wyk at loose head.
Oh man, there's a blast from the past. Good player.
That's a throwback.
Didn't he used to play for Leicester as well? Joined Leicester after he played in Northampton.
Quite possibly. That sounds right.
He sounds like a Leicester player.
A try scorer from the game at hooker, Dylan Hartley.
Oh, of course.
Good player.
Good player, proper bastard.
He scored off the back of the maul, and everyone thought it was a consolation score. And of course, it really wasn't. A tight dead, Jamal Ford Robinson apparently started.
Oh, wow.
My personal friend.
I genuinely couldn't remember seeing him playing, but he did.
I forgot he was ever not at Gloucester.
No,
That's what I thought as
he was
well.
at Northampton at this point. So, but this is a very odd tangent, right? So Jamal was at Gloucester and took a year. I'm pretty sure it was pre or during his Gloucester Northampton days. Sorry, he took a year out to become a professional wrestler.
Oh wow! What?
And he had one professional wrestling match. And yeah, knowing Jamal like I do, yeah, he loved. This was in his Mohawk days at Northampton, when they played in the luminescent green kit. Yeah, good player, and even better bloke.
Into the locks, you've got Dave Rivens, obviously now an English international, and Christian Day.
Oh,
then
of MasterChef and head of the
Yeah.
Also head of the Rugby Player Association now after
and not-
winning MasterChef.
and not related to Dominic Day, which is disappointing.
No, different tall man with a beard called Day.
Yeah.
And on to the back row, everyone's favourite English blindside flanker at the minute, Courtney Laws, because he is playing
Good player.
terrific rugby at the moment.
It's a Northampton game from the last 30 years. Of course, Courtney Laws is playing.
Lewis Ludlam was at open side.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. He must have been about 13 in this game.
Yeah.
And at
Wow.
number 8 was a man that nearly had a scrap with Owen Farrell in one of the earlier pool games, was Tamuna Harrison.
Taylor
Oh.
Harrison.
Now, does he qualify as
All
good
right.
player?
All right player.
Yeah, supposedly now
Weird.
tearing it up in the Pro Day Duh.
Yeah, weirdly.
That doesn't actually surprise me.
He had a
Yeah.
semi-decent England career as well. He had how many caps
But-
did he have?
But the thing is, so he had a relatively decent England career. Then Eddie Jones hauled him off after 20 minutes against Australia, and just put all the blame on him. And then England turned around that kind of, being behind in that game, went on to win by some margin, having brought him off, and he kind of scapegoated him and dropped him forever. He never played for England again after that.
Right. So, how many caps do you think? No, that's not right because it's that right. That's wrong. How many caps do you think he has?
I guess about 12.
I was thinking about 15, something like that.
Where is he? Where is his England caps? All.rugby. Where is your? He has 6 caps.
Oh, okay.
It feels like he played on a lot more. He was in a lot of squads, definitely.
Mm.
174 times for Northampton. Now plays for Big Spenders Provence. With who they're signing, like your George North, your Thomas Francis and whatnot. You're like
Courtney Laws
and
himself,
Taylor-
yeah.
and Courtney Laws, and you're like, oh, Taylor Harris is there as well. How did he get there?
I shall move on to the backs. A scrum half was Nick Groom. So this was pre-Alex.
Oh, good
Nick
player.
Groom.
Good
Yes.
player, Nick
Pretty
Groom.
sure Groom scored that night. I think it was one of the tries in the little comeback that they had. Piers Francis at 10, who went off after about 5 minutes because of injury.
Not a
I
good
never
player.
rated. No, I never rated
No.
Piers Francis.
If
That
you ever
was
want to laugh,
really weird.
go and listen to the Blood and Mud podcast around this time and hear Liam talk about Piers Francis.
On one wing, we had Ben Forden.
Oh, wow. Good player. Good player. I mean, I've heard some stories about him off the pitch, but good player.
Yeah. Last I heard, he was coaching Fordham University in Upper New York
Yeah.
because he played for Rugby New
I-
York.
I've heard other stories about him hanging around universities, but that's for another night.
Oh dear. Right, on the other wing was RC Tuala, who
Oh, good
Oh,
player.
scored. And I think he scored against Claremont after Christmas, which was like a big result at the time because it kind of helped the Ospreys out quite a lot before the Saracens game. He was on the wing. And then the centre pairing of Luther Burrell and Rob Horn.
No, good players. Good players, one and all.
Solid.
Luther Burrell is a very northern man.
I once bought Luther Burrell a drink as a side note. I didn't have to pay. Yeah, it's the whole thing. I'm not going to expand on that story.
And at
Large
fullback,
man.
And at fullback is another man that has switched from rugby union to the NFL is Harry Mallender, who did get sin binned for starting a scrap after scoring a try, I believe. So that
was Jim Mallender coaching at this point?
I believe this was Jim Mallender's either his last game or his penultimate game as director of rugby. Because after one of the defeats, he got sacked.
Him and Tandy went around the same time, didn't they?
Yeah,
They just had a clear out of like bald men with very fine hair on.
Mallender went first after one of the Ospreys games. I can't remember which one. And then obviously Tandy departed after losing away at Claremont.
Before we talk about
the
subs, talking about Steve Tandy a second. I watched the first episode of Full Contact and I put this on Twitter and had a genuine jump scare because I forgot Steve Tandy was there. So I was on my phone typing a tweet and then I heard the Tonmauer accent. It was Steve Tandy talking about how everyone should tackle, and I genuinely jumped out my skin. I was like, "Shit! When did you get there?" Lions coach Steve Tandy.
I was delighted to see him.
Look,
I
I made
felt-
it ambiguous, saying it was a good or bad jump scare, but he was there regardless.
I felt really proud seeing Steve Tandy on Netflix. Like I've seen Netflix originals with, like Matt Damon in them, you know, and like here's Steve Tandy. It's Steve Tandy himself. Nick Tompkins is in that as well. I'm proud of him.
Yes, then who was on the bench?
Mikey Hayward, replacement hooker.
Oh, good player.
Player.
Yeah,
Um,
solid.
Campese Marfu, the prop.
Oh, yes, Campese Marfu. What a man.
Sort of player who would have been really shit if he wasn't Fijian. But because he's Fijian, you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm okay with a tight head or a prop who just balls and doesn't bother scrummaging at all.
Now, the next three I can't really remember much of. There was Paul Hill, replacement tight head.
Paul, good
Paul
player. Good player, Paul Hill.
Yeah,
you had
good.
won like 2
good
caps
club
for England?
player. Yeah.
You had Michael Patterson, the replacement second row.
Oh, good player.
Don't
I actually
remember him
sent.
at all.
No, I sent this to Will the other week saying Michael Patterson, good player. Played for Cardiff for a while, was intending to qualify for Wales. Then, similar to Ethan Roots, went to England because he had his grand was English qualified and played a couple of uncapped games for England. I don't think he ever won a full cap.
Then,
Good player.
Then Jamie Gibson as a replacement back row.
Yeah, Jamie
The
Gibbs. I
Kiwi.
remember him vaguely.
Yeah.
And then, right, if you thought the starting halfbacks were good players,
I know who's coming here.
Oh,
Corbis Raynack was replacement scrum half. And he definitely scored, because I remember that.
Was
And
That's
Confortani
overpowered.
still at Northampton at this point? Or had he gone?
yeah, I guess he would be.
Oh, that's a good question. Didn't he just leave the season around that time? I can't.
Was he at Bath at this point?
He could have, yeah. But the next player is even better because
Yeah,
it's
he joined Bath that season.
Okay.
Stephen Mutt. Yes. Sorry, I spoke over our Lord and Savior, Stephen Myler, the greatest there's ever been.
Who came on in the 8th minute for Francis because Francis went down injured. Then had to depart the field after 20 minutes because he got injured himself after kicking a penalty, give them the lead. So they were down two fly-offs, and Gian Pablo Esteles, I think that's the correct pronunciation, came off the bench, and I can't remember I think Malander moved to 10 for the remainder of the night. And Esteles was viciously tackled by one of a Ospreys player, which will be mentioned shortly.
Fun fact about Footwear Lee is he has he's quite similar in his appearances. He appeared 47 times in the Ospreys, scoring 43 points, and weirdly has the same number of points in Northampton. So he's weirdly either kicked drop goals or penalties, like weirdly. And I have a feeling the Ospreys one was a drop goal.
I remember because he had a game at 10, didn't he?
Probably. But by the time
he had a game on the wing and a game at
Bath,
10, I think.
He was in his Piri-Weepu era, if you know what I mean. Yeah, the pizzerias in Bath were not shy of Carnfoot.
Didn't he join Montpellier afterwards as well?
He played one game for Montpellier. No, sorry, 9 times on a 1-year deal in 2019.
Mental. But still, good player.
Good player.
Very good player.
Great player. Briefly, the best scrum half in the world.
I'd argue he's one of the best scrum halves in the Ospreys. Probably is the best scrum half in Ospreys history.
Yeah. I mean,
in terms of pure rugby ability.
I mean, no, second place to Tom Haverfield isn't bad.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, second place to the Mole.
Right, and here's the Ospreys team for the night.
Yes, here we go.
A good team.
Speaking of Tom Haverfield,
things get interesting. Right, Loosehead Nicky Smith.
Fantastic player.
Good player.
Yeah.
And this was at the time where he
24 at this point.
Slowly starting to get on top of scrummaging and was really proper, giving it a good go. Scott Baldwin at hooker. This was after his trip to
Peak of his powers.
He got bitten. I believe this is one of his. He came back in Saracens. I think he had a couple of games before going back to it. Tight dead, Dimitri Arhip. This was
good player.
Dimitri Arhip as well. Before any French medicals could really affect him, this was Dimitri Arhip at his peak of his powers. Brilliant scrummager.
Mm.
And then the locks of Bradley Davis and AWJ. There we
Oh.
go.
Yeah, timeless.
Yeah, that's
Again,
like,
both in great form. I remember Alan Wynne having a really great game in this game.
he
as
scored
well.
a try and it was disallowed because of a knock-on by Sam Davis.
Yes.
Which I
I
remember. And I think he ran it in from like 30 meters. I was right in front of it, but there's a knock-on.
I remember
builder.
jumping up on my sofa as he ran that in. And I was living in a very small flat at the time, and I had one sofa bed that I had to fold up every morning. And yeah, I jumped up and down on it, and it almost broke.
And moving on to the back row, we had Dan did it at 6.
Oh
Yeah. You forget how long Dan it's been at the Ospreys.
Yeah.
He signed in 2014-15.
Yeah, and at 7 was Ollie Cracknell, because I just mentioned Tiprick was injured.
Oh wow.
So Cracknell was in, and James King was in at 8, who was time pinching line
Good
of
player,
like no tomorrow. Excellent.
One of the nicest men ever as well.
Mm.
Moving on,
good player.
And then moving on to the backs where things get exciting. Scrum half, try scorer in the 37th minute, Tom Haberfield.
This was peak Tom Haberfield. 2016 to 2018, Tom Haberfield was.
It's actually a really good try as well.
Mm.
The support line that he gave was brilliant. Sam Davis at 10, who obviously lost all confidence but brought it back for this game. And
yeah,
excellent. Someone that set up the Haberfield try, who got yellow carded in the first half, was Jeff Hassler. He was on one wing.
Yes.
And scored a brace in the second half, which was really fun. Owen Watkin at 12, who had just broken into the senior squad. Oh no, the second time he came through the senior squad, because he came in a couple of years previous but got injured. This was the time where Owen Watkin could turn the Ospreys into a free throw and offload inside. That Owen Watkin. He scored in this game, and I think it was a really good try. He was on a tier outside centre.
A solid player.
Yeah.
I remember my dad had a real big grudge about him when he joined the Scarlets, because he spoke to a couple of Scarlet supporters saying, "Oh, Fonatia is really good." And my dad would obviously, well, he never did that for the Ospreys every time he come out.
Really big head.
Yeah, and scored a really good disallowed try against Ulster once, which was ruled by a neck roll because AWJ was a 6 for some reason.
I do remember that.
His natural position.
Peak Alan Clark.
The other wing alongside Hassler was Hanno Dirksen.
Oh, good player.
Who got sent off with about 3 minutes to go, which made it a little bit tense.
Of course he did. God bless you, Hanno. For
a swinging arm towards one of the Northampton players. And then at fullback, making his 100th game for the region, I believe, if I remember correctly. I think it was like the fastest person to do so in terms of games played, because everyone came out with a fact saying they only missed 1 game, which was against Bordeaux, because he was resting. Scored a brace and was at the peak of his powers at this time, was Dan Evans, a fullback.
Oh, peak Dan Evans. This was like, he was the best fullback in Wales for years.
And there was about 6 seasons where Dan Evans was the only fullback in the full extended squad, and it didn't matter because he played every single game and was great in all of them.
And these 2 tries against Northampton meant he was on 6 tries in 3 Champions Cup games against 3 really good sides. So that was peak Dan Evans, and if he could come back for the Sale game at his pop, that would be excellent. Onto the bench, Scott at 16.
Good player, underrated player.
Was really prone for a chip and chase most of the time.
That's a prized memory.
Right, replacement loose head. One of the Cardiff lot that played during the COVID.
Alex Jeffries. Or was it the other one?
No.
Rowan Jenkins.
It was Rowan Jenkins.
Rowan Jenkins.
Paul Walker-Aberafan was called up to the Ospreys a couple of times because of an injury crisis at loose head. So he was on the bench. I think he came on he came on in the I'm quite confused. I'm looking at the subs here, and he came on for James King, apparently. So it looks like Nicky Smith played the full 80 minutes. I don't know why I can't remember why that happened. I'll have
No,
to
yeah.
I'll have to revisit the game now. And so that means I have to watch it again. And replacement loose tight end rather, Marfufia. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Replacement lock, we've just mentioned him. He had 17 minutes from the bench, Adam Beard.
Oh man.
He
Early
would have
Adam Beard, baby Beard.
21?
A really
Yeah.
young Adam Beard, but like still the size of a giraffe.
Because he'd sort of come in end of previous season, and he had a few games. I remember having a really good game against Ulster away, end of the season.
I think he scored against Leon in the Challenge Cup that season.
Yeah, he's 2 years old. He's 2 years older than me. So yeah, he's 28. So yeah, he would have been about 21.
Replacement back row came on, had a scrap with Harry Marinder and got sin binned with Rob McCusker.
Oh yes, vintage Rob McCusker.
Solid player.
No, I'll go good player. Rob McCusker.
And yeah, right, okay.
I mean, his period. He had a period with the Scarlets when he first got capped, where he was fantastic.
Maybe not. Maybe not for the Ospreys, but
he then disappeared for like 10 years, and then came back as like an elderly, grumpy, like Peter O'Mahony type bastard for the Ospreys.
I think in the Saracens game in Swansea after Christmas, he got pinged for not using the ball off the back of a scrum. And this was the time where John Lacey was reffing games, so it was normally chaos.
Oh, John Lacey, bad ref.
And I'm pretty sure McCusker got penalised for not using the ball, even though the ball was at his feet, which is interesting. Replacement 9, Ruben Morgan-Williams, who was probably 3.5.
Came off the back of one of the best under-20s seasons ever for the Dynasty team.
Replacement 10. So if you thought Stephen Milo was quite good, this was the very end of James Hook. He was on the bench.
Robbie, do you say good player for this? Or?
That's a complicated one.
I'm pretty sure he was involved in one of the tries as well. I genuinely think he throws a dummy in the build to one of the tries in the second half.
Wet.
And then 23, Ben John. Brilliant.
Great player. What a player.
A really good player.
Good player.
Yeah, incredibly nice man. Yeah. Wonderful guy. Wonderful player. Vastly underrated. He's one of these things like, I've met him like maybe 4 times now. And each time I want to be like, I was always saying he should have been capped. But you don't bring it up. you try and just have a normal conversation with him. Though I did ask him about his infamous try against Treviso, and he said it shouldn't have been a try first time I met him. But hey, we agree to disagree.
And that is the end of from my point of view.
What was the final score?
It was Northampton 32, Ospreys 43. Ospreys led 43-8 with about 20 minutes to go, with about 10 minutes to go, and conceded 4 tries, which got the Saints supporters rather excited. And then there's just me and a couple of other Osprey supporters thinking, are we actually going to throw this game away? And
was this the beginning of our weird infatuation with Northampton?
Well, because we'd had them in Europe a couple of years before and got battered back when they still had George North. And then we had this period, and this was both teams were in real ruts. I remember this game posting on the Rugby Union subreddit at the time. This is what happens when an extremely movable force meets an way around. An extremely stoppable force meets an incredibly movable object. And it was for me, this is one of the great Ospreys games because it was in a real run of poor form, real run of losses. That kind of Steve Tandy falling off period that eventually led to him losing his job, but
they kind of fighting Steve Tandy era.
Yeah, the bald scrap off, fighting over a comb, presumably. But they kind of put it together for 2 games. Those 2 games against Northampton, against another team who were going through largely the same thing under Malander, and it was kind of magic. Like it was an oasis moment, much like we mentioned it the other week, but that also game with the Aled Davis charge down for his face. Just kind of those wins mean all the more when they're really struggling, as Scarlet fans can attest to this season.
The there's a point. I did look at an Ospreys Northampton game actually, and so it was when George North and Futwali and Milo were playing, and we genuinely make up like 40% of we have represented 40% of the Northampton backline were Ospreys players. So yeah, so brilliant. That's a really good choice. Yes, I'm going to watch the highlights of this later because it's a brilliant game.
It's on the Sky Sports website. I know that for a fact. I remember when I went to school
good
the
kits
following week.
as well.
Yeah, and I went to school the following week, and that's all they tried to do was try and find a way to watch it on the school computer without anything.
Robbie.
Yes. Okay. Now, similar East Midlands theme, right? Now, I could easily, when looking at Ospreys Leicester games from that period where they played each other constantly.
Wait,
right?
sorry, I'm just going to stop you there.
Okay.
The under-18s have just beaten Cardiff in the 75th minute. Bearing in mind they play 70-minute games in the 75th minute with a try. So I would just say we're back. We won't be top of the league because we haven't got a bonus point, but we are 3 from 3. Sorry.
I love that Find a Way is filtering down every level.
Yeah.
The Boofy approach is stemming through the entire club. Yeah, so Leicester Tigers, look, this era, they played each other a lot, Ospreys and Leicester. I easily could have gone for either of the EDF Energy Cup finals, back when that was a big deal people cared about.
What we talked about last week.
Yeah, easily could have looked at the other game I've got in front of me, Ospreys 17, Leicester Tigers 12, Tommy Bow only try of the game. Aaron Morger drops it over the line, yard out from a pass from an uncapped Ben youngster who just got the nod at 9. You know, a great Ospreys team, great Leicester team. Youngster Ben Youngs. Toby Flood, Geordie Murphy, Dan Hipkiss, Lockie Curie, Lewis Deacon, young Jeff Parling, Lewis Moody.
One of my
all sorts of great
names.
Rows. Yeah. Manu Tuolangi came off the bench as an 18-year-old. The Ospreys team with Burnbow, Bishop, Hook, Shane, Bigger, Ricky January, like the absolute peak of that era. Back row of Jerry Collins, Marty Holler, and Ryan Jones, with Tia coming off the bench in the last 10 minutes. Absolute peak of that era. However, I'm instead going to look at, I think, the last game of that period where they played each other all the time. A incredibly memorable game for me. Ospreys against Leicester at the Brewery Field in Bridgend, November 2010. Ospreys 46, Leicester 13, biggest win over them in the LV Cup. This game was primarily notable because both teams had a debutant at 10. An 18-year-old and a 17-year-old respectively. 18-year-old Matthew Morgan against 17-year-old George Ford making his professional debut.
Oh, yes.
Stat and a half.
So, the Leicester team, right, this day, fullback, Alex Lewington, I believe the only professional rugby player still active who was born in the same hospital as me from a similar area to where I grew up. You've got Lee Robinson on one wing, who I have no
is that
memory
Alex
of.
Lewington as in Saracens?
Yeah. Saracens Alex Lewington, yeah.
Oh my God.
He's from Nottingham, went to Nottingham High School, which is the poshest school in Nottingham. And yeah, then came through Leicester Tigers, went back to Nottingham when he didn't quite cut it there, was top try scorer in the championship that season. London Irish signed him. London Irish then, he then went to Saracens from there. So bounced around quite a lot before the age of 24. And then from there, kicked on and stayed at Saracens for, quite a long time now. Lee Robinson on the wing, who I have no memory of whatsoever.
Don't remember him whatsoever. 13,
Dan Hipkiss. Good player.
Yes. This was in his England era as well.
Yeah. Andy Forsyth at 12.
Andy Forsyth. Oh, that's a name from the past.
Was again, very vague memories of him. Played a bit for Sale, played a bit for Leicester. 11, Will Hurrell, future Sale winger.
Yeah.
10, debut, George Ford.
Good
First game of
player.
professional rugby. Good player. Kicked a couple of penalties. 2 penalties and a conversion. Solid enough. I remember there was a lot of hype around him for that game. But 9, right? Osprey's point of view, Jason Spice.
Oh my God.
Now we're
Wow.
talking.
Jason Spice.
Jason Spice. So Camilo Parry Ocampo at Loosehead, who hell of a
Not
name.
clue.
No idea who he is. At tight end, you had Ryan Bauer. Again, don't remember that man.
No. These are all
But-
NFTs.
Yeah. Instead of an NFT at hooker, you just had a cunt, Rob Hawkins.
Yeah.
Who, of course, got banned for a year for deliberately breaking a man's arm. Just a massive piece of shit, that guy. Speaking of piece of shit, Callum Green in the second row. I seem to remember being a bit of a bastard, but maybe I'm mixing him up with someone else, and I've just been needlessly cruel to a man. Ben Gulliver as the other lock. Again, no idea who that man
memory
is.
of.
Dan Hemingway at 6, not to be confused with the Jude Law film Dom Hemingway, also starring a very young Emilia Clarke. Tom Arms at 7, which they made him up. He isn't a real player.
That's like one of those
That's a
general
witness
things you get.
protection name. I'm sorry.
They were looking around the room for someone to come up with, and they were like, right, let's have Nick Legs and Tom Arms. And captain and number 8, Ben Pienaar, who I have vague memories of, and I think was all right.
What? This team is odd.
Yeah.
It's kind of all brought together, I think, by very young George Ford at 10, by 17-year-old schoolboy George Ford.
Do you reckon he was looking around and was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Who are the... Why am I playing this here with Dan Hipkiss?
Do you think they made that so he'd feel settled in? It's like a lower standard he's used to at schoolboy level, playing with this lot. These NFTs he's brought with him.
They wouldn't even been NFTs. They would have been sports trading cards back then. Panini stickers.
I should mention, so my partner Katie's in the room, and has texted me saying both Ricky January is not a real name, and no way Jason Spice, you've made that up.
They were both Ospreys players.
Yeah.
Oh. What was the Ospreys team?
So yes, the Ospreys team this day, right? This is a superb vintage. Remember back when we had a second 15? We could just name a second 15 of players. You did of 2010.
2010, right? Okay, I'm trying to think. 2010. Go on.
November 2010. So fullback Tom Pride.
Yeah. 14-year-old Tom Pride.
Perpetually 14 Tom Pride. On one wing, you had Christian Phillips, man of the match with 2 tries.
Good player.
Solid.
Decent. Never lived up to his potential was always the thing around him.
Yeah.
But 13, Sonny Parker.
Oh, well, good player.
58-year-old Sonny Parker at this point.
Yeah. Last scraps of Sonny Parker, but good player.
So
12.
gone to London Welsh at this point.
No, where he's still playing, I think, now. 12, the first scraps of Ashley Beck.
That's
Ooh,
a
he would have been
brilliant
young.
centre pairing.
He would have been about 22.
I think this was one of Ashley Beck's first games. He was very young, right at the start of his career. On the wing, the man, the myth, the legend, Richard Fussell.
Yes, the Fuss. Good player. I don't care what anyone says.
Good player.
Solid
I loved
fullback.
him.
Solid attack coach.
Yeah. Scored the bonus point try, did fuss. Loved that guy. Missed that guy. 10, Matthew Morgan. Again, making his debut, 18 years old. Unheralded, hadn't played for the under-20s or anything yet. Just came out of nowhere and he was player of the match. He was man of the match. Kind of came out of nowhere, was brilliant. Wales Online went absolutely nuts. Scrum off alongside him though, another youngster, Reece Webb. Whatever happened to him?
Good prospect. Don't think ever anything happened.
Yeah, shame that didn't really work out for him. Perhaps if he tried some performance-enhancing substances, it might have. I don't know. Now, front row, Duncan Jones.
Yes.
Continuing the kind of coaching theme. You've got Fussell, you've got Duncan Jones.
He forced his way into the squad for the training squad for the World Cup.
Did
this season? Yeah, he went on. He was in the extended training squad for 2011 World Cup, and everyone was like, "How? He's about 68." and we have Geth, which is all we need. But yeah, he was in the extended training squad for that World Cup.
I mean, someone else was in the extended training squad, Craig Mitchell at tight head.
Oh my God.
He was playing for Tonna last year, I'm pretty sure.
As a back rower.
Yeah, I think he's playing at 8.
Good player.
Good player. Because he lost a lot of weight and just started moving back in the scrum, didn't he? Yeah. He'll be a fly off in a couple of years' time. Mevin Davis, captain hooker.
Yeah.
When he came back aged like 41.
Yeah, I was going to say, he would have been about 40 at this point, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Because he kind of came back to the Ospreys for a season, maybe 2 seasons, as a kind of player coach.
Yeah.
And just rocked up a few times. Second row, right? Here we go. This is one of the best second row combos the Ospreys ever put out, I would say.
Yeah.
You mentioned Bradley Davis and Alan Jones, both Wales legends. This is very much up there. Conor McInnery and James Good.
They're not real people.
Do you remember either of those?
They are competition winners. I'm sorry. No, they are not real people. I refuse to believe it.
I think Conor McInnery, who was Irish, scored. I think he played about 4 games. James Good played a reasonable number as a kind of backup option.
I remember him. But
yeah,
I remember his name and nothing else. Yeah.
I have expired my entire schema on James Good. He was called James Good and he wore a scrum cap. Done. Yeah. Speaking of people called James that wear scrum cap, James King at 6.
Yeah.
Good player.
Another feature.
Good player.
Another youngster who had made his debut not long beforehand. I think the previous year, Justin Tipperick at 7.
Yeah, did you know Sean Holly had to eat an egg or something like? Oh, who was it? Not Sean Holly. It was Andrew Hall, wasn't it? The famous story that Sean Holly tells every time he brings up Justin Tipperick.
Yeah, one of those two had to eat an egg because one of them didn't believe Tipperick would make it.
Oh no! If we've heard that story from Sean Holly, it's because it reflects well on him. So
yeah, I'm a good coach.
Yeah, but he is a coach. Most importantly, he will tell you that. And number 8, Andy Lloyd.
Yeah, he must have been old at this point.
Oh yeah, this was very tail end of his career. Final score: Ospreys 46, Leicester Tigers 13. In Bridgend, Christian Phillips with 2 tries, Matthew Morgan won himself, Richard Fussell, Ashley Beck, Reece Webb, Sonny Parker each getting a try before there was Mr. Penalty Try, who had a really long career, popped up on the end to score. Tom Arms got Leicester's only try, which I suppose helped him ground it, he had arms to do so. The great thing I love about this, though, right? The Ospreys scored... What's that? 9 tries. They only kicked 3 conversions, each of them by a different player, which tells a story in itself.
That's fucking brilliant.
So Matthew Morgan got 1, Tom Brady got 1, Gareth Owen.
I'd forgotten this game.
The bench. Sorry, I didn't do the bench. Richard Hibbard.
Yeah.
Great player. Joe Reese, who
don't remember him.
Very vaguely remember. Kai Griffiths.
The Mammoth.
Another London Welsh fixture.
Yeah, great man.
Ian Goff.
104-year-old Ian Goff.
Yep. This is completely overpowered when you look at the Leicester team, which is full of kids no one's ever heard of again. Marty Holler.
Whoa. Yeah.
Jamie Nutt Brown. Gareth Owen. And one cap wonder Barry Davis.
Barry Davis. What was his nickname? 18 months, isn't it? Year and a half. That was old Barry Davis. That was his nickname. 18 months.
The Leicester bench: Joe Duffy, Fraser Balmain, Peter
Fraser
Bucknell.
Balmain.
Fraser Balmain.
Oh, he's still going now.
Is he?
Yeah, he plays for Gloucester.
Oh man. Oh, now we're talking. Okay. Peter Bucknell, Matt Everard, who now coaches my brother.
Okay.
So he's assistant coach of something at Tigers. Was at
Shout
Wasps
out
before they
Long
went
Eaton
under.
Blues.
Yeah. And his first team coach at Long Eaton, where my brother plays. So my brother knows Matt Everard pretty well. And has never mentioned to him in person that we signed him on Rugby Challenge once. Steve Maffey, good player.
Yeah.
Sam Harrison, good player. Who was always that, like, during that period where, I mean, say that period, still going on, where every single Leicester game, you just had Ben Youngs there. Every now and again, they had a random long-haired man instead. You know, oh, it's Sam Harrison, right? Okay.
Retired to be a carpenter in Australia.
Yeah, just because he was bored, like he just wasn't enjoying it anymore, and we need more of that. I don't blame any player that does that. Stephen McCauley, no idea, and Rory Lynn rounds out the team.
Yeah, that sums it up, I think, for that Leicester team. They were in the doldrums there in terms of their squad depth. But man, that is I had forgotten that game in its entirety.
I remember it well. The Christian Phillips and Matthew Morgan hype trains that sparked off the back of this.
So so originally, right, I'm gonna put my hand out and say I chose the Munster versus Ospreys game. That sort that it was he's got it off to Hassler, that game, because it's etched into my mind. So, but I remembered a game as we were going through and sort of sticking to Anglo-Welsh theme. I'm going to change it on air, right? And I have gone instead for Bath 10, Ospreys 13. This game took place during, I think, the 2013 season. No, it was later than that. Sorry, 2014, 2015. And you'll understand this was in the LV Cup. So let me just go through the Bath team. So
okay,
at 15. So like I said, originally we're going to go that Munster game. I will go back to that Munster game for a number of reasons. We will go back to that in a different episode. Maybe the Munster game actually. So at 15 for Bath, Horatio Aguila.
Oh, good player. No, great player. No, Argentine winger, played in 2007, 2011 World Cups. Great player.
14, Ollie Woodburn.
Oh, good player.
Good player. Pre-Exeter Ollie Woodburn, obviously. 13, Matt Banahan.
Oh, you know, mixed bag as a player, I think, Matt Banahan.
Yeah.
Got better as he went on, I think.
I remember watching Tian Thomas Wheeler make his debut for the Ospreys against Bath or Gloucester, and he had to line up against Matt Banahan, and I was like, there are better ways to make your debut than having to line up against Matt Banahan on the Ospreys line. At 12, and the reason I chose this, Sam Burgess.
Oh, wow.
Sam Burgess at 12. At left wing, Rich Lane, now carving it up for Bristol.
Yes. Yeah.
At 10, right, I'm going to say this slowly. At fly half, Ollie Devoto.
Ollie Devoto. Man, there's a fly half at Bath.
The nearly man, Ollie Devoto.
Good player.
Touted at 12 for England for years. Good player for Gloucester. At 9, Will Homer. He would have been young at this point.
Good player. Good player.
Now we get into some properly gnarly ones. Max Laheath. So this was look at me, I'm a funny posh boy, Max Laheath. Rob Webber. Does anyone remember Rob Webber?
Yeah, Rob Webber. Yeah, decent player.
Good.
Yeah. Went to the 2011 World Cup with England, I believe. 2015
World Cup as well.
2015, yeah. Was on the bench for that game against Wales.
Yeah, he was. Kane Palmer Newport, who I don't remember what.
Kane Palmer Newport, yeah.
Yeah, I think another one.
Stuart Hooper. 105-year-old Stuart Hooper. who got yellow carded in the 17th minute.
Before they just kept moving and further upstairs. to keep
Further
him away.
upstairs, yeah. Tom Ellis, good,
Tom Ellis.
solid, good player, I think.
Yeah.
Then this is an interesting back row. Dave Cece,
Oh yeah. Prix Italy.
and the creep inspector in the background, Guy Mercer.
Great loan signing.
The time travelers like at a window somewhere screaming, "Don't do it! Don't do it!" at an Ospreys scout. And number 8, Carl Ferns.
Oh yeah.
I liked Carl Ferns in this era.
Me too.
On the bench, you got a very young front row, all still playing today. Tom Dunn, Benno Urbano, who I remember having a lot of hype after this era, and Henry Thomas.
Oh wow!
And
then you got
future Wales international.
Alafati Fosaliva.
Mm-hmm. Good player.
I vaguely remember. One of my favourite Bath players of all time, Leroy Houston.
Yes.
Great player.
Just the most American name for a posh Englishman.
We had Thomas Waldrum and Leroy Houston in the same era, and that's what peak number 8s looked like to me. Chris Cook.
Oh, good player. Chris Cook. Still going now.
Yeah, Zebra.
Yeah.
Luke Arscott.
Good player.
Good. Really.
Yeah, the Arscott brothers. One played for London. Tom played for London Welsh. Both just really solid utility backs.
And then it's not a Bath team without Samita Rockandaguni.
Of course it isn't.
So now we move on to the Ospreys team.
Okay.
Now the reason I remembered this game was because it randomly popped into my head. Matthew Dwyer did an alternative commentary for the last try of this game because we scored in the 78th minute and then converted it to make it 13-10. So at fullback, Richard Fussell.
Brilliant. What a player. Love him.
Tom Grabham on the other wing.
Solid player.
A player. Jonathan Spratt.
Oh,
yeah.
Well-worn ground, yeah.
Yeah, we covered Jonathan Spratt. Josh Matavesi.
Oh,
this would have been towards the peak of his powers. 2014 was when Josh Matavesi really stepped up. He's come up again. Isaiah Natonga.
Oh, yeah.
At 10, Sam Davis, as it would have been in this era.
Great player.
9, Martin Roberts.
Yeah.
Good. I liked Martin Roberts.
I liked him at the Scarlets, and I remember him being the great thing about this current Ospreys team is normally teams I support have one player that I'm not so fond of and get a bit annoyed with. And this current Ospreys team don't have that because Reece Webster's gone. But Martin Roberts was that in that period. And it's like, normally they're good players. I just get frustrated with them.
Had a
and I was always frustrated with... Sorry?
He had a good nose, like a good-sized nose, Martin Roberts.
Got high tackle by Dan Carter as well. The other highlight of his career.
At loose head, Mark Thomas.
Good
player.
It wasn't.
Worcester legend. They loved him at Worcester. The reason I remember Mark Thomas is there's a story apparently where they were at a hotel, either playing for Worcester or Ospreys, and he chop tackled a Christmas tree in the lobby. Scott Otten, a hooker.
Good player.
Yeah, really good player. Kai Griffiths again. Would have been not long before he went to London Welsh. Number 4, Tavita Kavabati.
Oh,
Tex.
Good player.
Yeah, had a fantastic run in this game. Yesterday, you'll recognise number 5, Rodri Hughes.
The Aberafon
legend.
Aberafon player. Yeah, tidy player in the Welsh Prem. Yeah.
Then this back row is the ultimate Ospreys back row if none of them were internationals. So you've got Ollie Cracknell at 6, good player. I've teased him once this week on Twitter already. Sam Lewis.
Oh, yes.
What a player.
What a good player.
In this era, when you had Tipperick, and obviously he was away with Wales a lot, and you just have Sam Lewis step in, you're like, yeah, you are the greatest. You are literally Richie McCaw if he was from Swansea.
Sam,
That man.
on an Ospreys podcast, Sam Lewis is the epitome of good player. He should be the face of good player.
He
It should
is
be
the
the
face
Sam
of
Lewis
good
good player game.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Sam Lewis Award at the end of the year. When we do the awards at the end of the year, we're doing the Sam Lewis Award. And then Joe Beerman at number 8.
Oh, good player.
So
Joe
the bench
Beerman.
is also the bench who the try scorer, Matthew Dwyer, the army captain, weirdly for many years, army captain.
Lived with, I say, in a Tonga for a long time as well.
Yeah. Duncan Jones, yeah, he retired 2 years later, I think, than this. Maybe a year later. Dan Suter.
Good player. I always liked Dan Suter.
No, I
couldn't
don't
scrummage
like
for shit, but had once threw a great miss ball against Perpignan or something.
The reason I remember Dan Suter in this game is because he sidestepped Sam Burgess.
This was the thing, right? I was of an age where I didn't care about scrummaging for props. I just wanted to see them do little sidesteps.
So what? You're a Scarlets fan now, or a Cardiff fan? Insert other
I grew up
here.
Yeah.
19. He's there. He's everywhere. Tyler Ardron.
Oh yes,
excellent player.
Yeah.
Excellent player. Ian Jones at 20, who I have no memory.
Oh
of.
God, I do remember him. Yeah. Number 8 was really long. Number 8 signed for the Scarlets, was solid for the Scarlets. I feel he went to Leicester. Ian Jones. He was one of these players. He broke through when he was 20 years old. Looked solid. Looked grand. Looked good. And then disappeared off the face of the earth. But at the time, everyone was hyping up. It's oh, here's the next Wales number 8. Then nothing came of him.
Tom Hammerfield, obviously, would have been in this.
Yes,
era.
The best.
Ben John as backup 10. We literally did not have a backup 10.
He's got the skills for it.
He does, and then Hanno Dirksen to round out the replacements.
Hey, Hanno Dirksen could play 10, supposedly.
Crashball 10. Imagine that. Just an angry South African man running at you.
The USA supposedly inquired about him as a fly half to the Ospreys back when he was still qualified there. And then he turned it down in order to, stay and hopefully play for Wales one day.
He should have won a cap. He should have won a cap.
His brother did. His less good brother won 3 caps to the USA.
He is Jack Welch before Jack Welch happened.
Yeah.
Born in America, but has a Southern Hemisphere accent. It's weird this has happened twice for us.
Yeah.
Hanno Dirksen, there's is it the playoff game against Munster? 2010, he scores that beautiful try to finish off.
2012
to finish. Yeah, 2012. That's the one. Yeah, and that was a good one. It was when the BBC was still showing games, but they hadn't upgraded their cameras since 2004. So you're like, oh my god, is Nicky Robinson going to do a drop goal or something that's the era we're in. So that was my good player. I think 3 solid choices this week, and we've got some good ones in backup as well. You got to understand, we put these in the chat every day. I'm like, oh my god, do you remember this game? Or do you remember? So we've got definitely we're going to do the Munster one. He got it off to Hessler, but there's a few Munster ones we could pick actually from that era as well. That we lost the playoff game that year, the game in Thomond Park. You've got a few of these Munster around that time. You've got the
game in Swansea, which started the demise of the Ospreys in 2017.
Yeah, you've also got the one from 2 years ago where it was a scratch Munster team, except Damon Dialende turned up.
And I think Conor Murray was on the bench that night.
Yeah, he was,
and had a shocker.
Yeah, he did. And the reason I remember it is because I made a joke to my grandfather that Kieran Williams was pulling Dialende's pants down, and then literally did pull his shorts down. So let's make that. What? So what was the other one we said? We were going to do the Sale one. Yeah, the Sale, the Sale at Brewery Field one. Yeah, I say in a Tonga hat trick and George Ford kicking everything. So we'll definitely do that one. We did talk about doing the Ulster Alec Davis charge down with the face.
Yes.
Because that was a season we only won 2 games, and that was one of them in a hateful game. where I got a ticket for £5 with my flatmate from uni, and I was like, this is hateful. Why am I here? And then Alec Davis charged it down with his face, and I was like, you are the greatest man in the world.
The Ulster team that day, if I remember, was actually not that bad.
Yeah,
I think.
Ulster teams are never bad. This is the thing. I've never seen a bad Ulster team.
Yeah. I wanted to watch the Alec Davis charge down with his face back the other week. And so I went and I found the highlights. And they are, if you watch the extended highlights, I think it's Mark Robson doing it. And they are increasingly, as the game goes on, getting less and less into the, Ulster are looking at an easy bonus point here as they go on, into, for God's sake. Is this going to end with a charge down from the face by Alec Davis? Because we all know what's coming.
And then, do we have any other games that you were considering, boys? I know, obviously, Robbie, you went to the Leicester ones.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of the Leicester ones from that era. Claremont as well from around then. The Biarritz one's the obvious one.
No, I refuse
long in the memory,
but do it.
Yeah. And the other one of note, I think, was Toby Booth's first proper league game in charge against Edinburgh away. Matt Prothero scores that brilliant try. Nicky Smith scores. There's a few, there's a few like that. There's that kind of, a few out in Claremont. Bunch, bouncing around there. You can kind of look at. There's a few of those like the one I went for, where there's odd kind of moments where someone makes a debut or there's something kind of clicks out of nowhere and it gets broadly forgotten because it was a league or LV Cup game and it wasn't, a big European match or a final.
So
or one of the 2 games he won that season.
I asked the question on Twitter at Ospreys Eyrie. So this is a couple of you. So Scarlet's Fever get in touch to say 44-0. Jokes on you guys, we've already done it. I had to sit through that before Christmas with Hugh Griffin. And I went through the team that day and it is hateful. Yeston, you were there. I apologise.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Ospreys v Saracens at the Millennium Stadium. The Henson Masterclass.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That was the first Ospreys game I was ever at. Dan Bigger's first game as well.
Ospreys versus Belgium.
Oh, yes!
Does anyone remember this one?
Oh, I forgot that happened. Yeah.
Season tour, which is basically a big piss up to Brussels, and they played a bit of rugby on literally a park. And then going on to the Ospreys versus Russia pre-season friendly in 2011. I'm liking this team already. The 2012 semi-final versus Munster, we talked about.
Yeah.
The Ospreys versus Sale 2006 game with the 39 passes. And then this one I had no memory of. This is from Australian, and yes, you'll know this one. There was a game against the Dragons in the LV Cup where in the brewery where we were 40-0 down at half time and nearly came back to win.
I remember that. I believe that was the same sort of era as the one I went for. Because I believe that's the game that ended Christian Phillips' career as an international, where he was in the Wales squad. And him and Tom Pride were released to play for the Ospreys because they're both put in as youngsters. And then Christian Phillips,
12 years old.
Oh yeah. But they're like, these are the 2 next big things. One of them's going to be the next big thing. Which one's it going to be? Like a bloody BBC One Saturday night talent contest. And they released them both to play. And then Alan Brew ran at Christian Phillips about 5 minutes in, and Phillips stepped out the way instead of going for the tackle. And that was it. That was it done. Like, the Dragons won the game handsomely. Brew was unbelievable and ended up making the World Cup squad ahead of them both out of nowhere.
Oh, Alan Brew. What a man. So, we've been going on for a while, but I don't care because good player is the best. And people are enjoying it. People are actually like, good player. This is cool.
I checked the team that played against Belgium. Jonathan Spratt was captain.
Yes, of course he was. I like to think he was tour captain as well. But instead of drinking, they went to like a thermometer museum. right, lads, we're going to get clogs and you're all going to enjoy it. You had like 18-year-old Keelan Giles was just going on his like first senior tour, and he's like, I want to go to like every Brussels nightclub. And like, no, you go into like a leather tanning shop. Like, come on.
I've been to Brussels and I stayed for too long. I went for 10 days, and it is not a 10-day city. You can see everything in a weekend.
I went for 3, and it was like, yeah, this is a perfect amount.
Yeah. You run out of things to do quickly unless you love the Smurfs.
Yeah, or the weird Harry Potter shop.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was Good Player. Keep your suggestions rolling in. These are really fun to do. Obviously, next week, again, if we decide to record, we will talk about stuff. But we got the next game, obviously, the 18th. We could look at Wales versus England, but we'll see. Speaking of tangents, Robbie, what is your weird Viaplay recommendation?
Yes. So I'm pretty sure I haven't done this one already, but I'm running out of films on Viaplay that I've seen. Because I started looking through, and there's one film about like a man who like lives next door to Satan or something, and I was like, cool, that sounds all right. A Royal Affair starring Mads Mikkelsen, because half of the films on Viaplay star Mads Mikkelsen, and the others star no one that can speak English. So A Royal Affair, Mads Mikkelsen, Alicia Vikander's first film. Would later go on to win an Oscar for The Danish Girl. Really good. First foreign language film I ever saw at the cinema. It's on Viaplay if you fancy it. It's a very good account of a real kind of thing that happened in Danish history, where basically the king's doctor, played by Mads Mikkelsen in the film, basically convinced the king that he was mad and forced into law that if someone's mad, their doctor can take all the power over from them. So this doctor ended up running Denmark for a bit because he convinced the king he was mad. And it's very good. It's very good. First foreign language film I ever saw in the cinema, and for that it holds a special place in my heart.
So it's directed by Nikolai Arcel.
Yes,
or Nikolaj Arcel, who directed The Dark Tower. Thank you for that. Who also directed A Conspiracy of Faith, which is Department Q, A Conspiracy of Faith.
Oh man!
As well as he met back up with Mads Mikkelsen in 2023 and made The Promised Land.
Now I have not seen that. I need to hunt this out. I need to know if this is out. It'd probably be on Viaplay.
It had a budget of 8 million.
That's all right.
And I assume about 6 of that probably went on Mads Mikkelsen. But yeah. So again, these are getting more. You are running out. We're gonna have to. Can the URC move to a different provider, so we can talk about different like obscure films?
We're getting into the depths of. We're getting towards every Danish film I've ever seen. Is what this is quickly becoming.
Right. So we're going to stop it there. You can find the boys on X mainly at Squidge Rugby, at Squidgy Goat, at Yes_Thomas21. If you want me, at James Reese 8. But if you want to find the pod, at Ospreys Eyrie, a huge thank you to the response to the Lance Bradley interview. I should have said this at the start. 90% of the positive was really great. And we've taken all the feedback on, not just the good stuff. Go and check it out. You'll find it. Just type in Lance Bradley interview. We'll be back next week doing some sort of episode. We might do one good player next week. I think if we do 3 again, we will lose our audience.
That again.
So as much as we enjoy doing these, so we'll sort that next week. Have a good week, everyone.